Hi, my name's Rachel, and today we're discussing Elantris by Brandon Sanderson because I finally cracked open a Cosmere book back in September, and now I want to talk about it, but I would like to know why none of y'all told me that Brando Sando was writing about communism. That was rude. Why did y'all keep that from me? Elantris was Brandon Sanderson's debut book. This is part of the Cosmere series. As I said, this is my first dabbling into the Cosmere series. I have read other Brandon Sanderson books, but it was his Skyward books 1 and 2, which I liked. This is a novel that explores themes of religion and communism. There's a lot of economic talk in here and what we owe to each other when we create economies. And I was like, that's suspicious. I didn't think that Brandon was one of us, which I don't actually think that he is, but I do think that he quite obviously wrote communism into a book, or at least communist idea, Marxist theory a little bit. And I was like, Brandon, I didn't know you were dabbling like that. That's fun. So this is set in the fictional city of Elantris, as the name implies, and the original inhabitants of the city of Elantris, well, it's like Elantris and then there's like outside Elantris, because Elantris is sealed off. So Elantris was this grand, glorious city, and then the Elantrians, who were at one time these like almost godlike beings who were really into like science and education and I don't know, math and art, just they were cultured. They are, what's left of them are half zombies, sort of like decaying people, and the city of Elantris has transformed into a decaying wasteland, sort of like a reverse thing of what happens to a butterfly, where instead of metamorphosis into a beautiful butterfly, it metamorphoses into a disgusting caterpillar. I fucking hate caterpillars, I'm sorry. It's this decaying wasteland covered in goop. You know what this is like? Oh my god, you know what this is exactly like? It's like the abyss in Zelda Tears of the Kingdom. It's exactly like that. It's disgusting and dark and covered in goop. Yeah, actually it's exactly like that. I'm never gonna unsee that. I'm happy to say, well, this is not a 5-star read. It's like a 4. It's a solid 4, huh? This is a positive review. You're welcome. As many of you know, I've been trying to learn how to do in-depth positive reviews. I recently used Daniel Jose Older's Skillshare class to help me in writing an in-depth positive review on another book. I used a different class to help me write this one. If you don't know, Skillshare is the largest online learning community for creatives. They have a wide depth of topics, everything from illustration, for graphic design, photography, productivity, music, marketing, but also writers. There is tons of advice on Skillshare. There's so many classes with so many authors who you'll probably recognize. And I recommend these not just to writers, but also to people learning how to review. I use writers classes and I take the advice and I flip it to see if the book that I'm reading is using these effective tools that are taught in the Skillshare classes, or at least like using these tools in like an effective way, a way that actually leads me to liking the book. I've been using classes on world building to gain a better understanding of fantasy world building from a writer's perspective, and then I channel that into reviewing by understanding the building blocks of it. It also gives me the vocabulary to like articulate what works and what doesn't. Sanderson himself gets praised for world building, and I wanted that to be the central theme of this review. His crafting of intricate economics and politics and religions and a little bit of magic that he weaves together because they all inform one another, and it's a world that really stands out from other fantasy books that I have read. And if you're a writer, Skillshare classes can further help you with this. I liked Lincoln Michelle's class for this as he focuses in on world building specifically. He discusses how in world building you are really going to have to do the work to set yourself apart from others in your genre and find a new story angle. This was helpful for me in writing this review because not only did I understand better how writers think when they are world building, but also instead of just telling you what happens, I tried to look for an angle to review from that was different from normal. So Sanderson took a new world building approach, I think, in creating this economy in this book, not just outside of Elantris, but in Elantris itself, even though there's nothing there. So my review approach is to highlight that. What's great about Skillshare is that it is an on-demand platform and it has stackable lessons so members can learn at their own pace no matter your skill level. So whether you want to learn the basics of watercolor painting or how to start your own creative business, Skillshare has classes to take you from beginner to pro alongside a supportive community that you can chat with. And for all of those of us in the author and reviewing community who are basically running small businesses, they also have classes on entrepreneurship and freelancing and marketing and using social media for your business. The first 500 people to use my link down below will get access to one of Skillshare's best offers, 30 days free and 40% off of your first year year of Skillshare membership. So if you're looking to hone whatever craft it is that you dabble in, click the link below to get your 1 month free of Skillshare. And thank you to Skillshare for partnering with me on today's video. While Elantris is primarily known for its characters, like people have a lot of thoughts on Hrathen, which so do I. People really like Hrathen. They think he's very complex, and he is. It also offers a very interesting perspective, I'm just saying, on governance and societal structures and economics. In fact, I'd say without joking that this book makes a positive case for communal living, or communal society, I should say. One where each person, so weird, is given according to their needs, and each person gives according to their ability. Where did we originally hear that, I wonder? If you look at Elantris and examine it through a lens where you see these central themes of equality, collaboration, shared responsibility, it's almost as if Brando was actively trying to demonstrate that a well-balanced community, or a well-balanced communal system rather, can lead to a more just, more harmonious society. Let me give you a very brief rundown of the Communist Manifesto, because I feel like I've already lost a lot of you because you don't know what communism is, which is not your fault. I didn't know what it was either. I grew up with a Becca curriculum where we were told bullshit about communism, and that has bled into outside of fundamentalist evangelical curriculum. Obviously, Red Scare propaganda is alive and well. If you would like to hear about McCarthyism, I will leave a link down below. Communism gets thrown around as an insult, so does Marxist, even in this day and age. You know who I just recently heard use it? Was the Moms for Liberty dumbass. Whoever disagrees with a right-winger gets called a Marxist. In fact, some of you may know that I have a Patreon tier called Potato Starch Marxist, and the reason for that is because I'm making fun of the fact that when I was doing a video about homeschooling, Christian homeschooling curriculum rather, I was researching and I found a woman who said, you don't know who you're sending your children to be taught by. For all you know, they could be starch Marxists. And I was like, so not only do you not know what Marxism is, you don't know the difference between staunch and starch? And so I make fun of it and call us potato Marxists. So that's a common theme, is that a lot of people just don't know what communism or Marxism is. Like, I recently asked my mom, I think I've talked about this before, what is communism? And she goes, communism to me. And I said, no, it has a definition. And then further I asked her, what's your opinion on Karl Marx? And she goes, well, you know, with Marx, it's just the trajectory, he went from Marxism to communism. And I was like, and me actually knowing what those things are now, I'm just baffled by this sentence because, oh my god, I would have eaten that shit up when I was being raised by her. All this to say, a lot of people don't know what they are, and that's because of Red Scare propaganda. So let me give you a rundown, okay? Which, unlike a lot of right-wingers, including my mom, I have actually read it. It's very short. You can listen to it on YouTube. It's available on YouTube. Some guy, that's how I read it, was some guy he recorded himself reading it, and it's very quick. I'll leave a link below. Unlike what my Christian Abeka textbooks taught me, it is not about ideas that come from Satan. Communist Manifesto is by two dudes, not just Karl Marx, but also Friedrich Engels, and it was published in 1848, and it's really short because it's technically a political pamphlet. Marx and Engels argue that a lot of social issues we see today, like issues amongst people in society, historically and presently, are derived from and driven by class struggles. So upper and lower class, the struggle between them, and how the upper class works to keep the lower class in struggle with each other. I feel like I've gotten ahead of myself and I might have already lost you. Let me go back. So Marx and Engels divide society into different categories based on the oppressed classes and the oppressor classes. So the bourgeoisie and the proletariat. Wait, flip that. The bourgeoisie is the oppressors and the proletariat are the oppressed classes. So under capitalism, these two main classes in society, the bourgeoisie and the proletariat, the bourgeoisie are the owners of the means of production, and the proletariat, the working class, are the ones who get exploited of their labor. And they are exploited by the bourgeoisie, the upper class, because they, the bourgeoisie, get a mass amount of value, capital, from off the backs of the working class. The bourgeoisie just gets all that despite not doing the labor of the working class because they own the means of production. And in the Communist Manifesto, they predict that the proletariat is going to eventually overthrow the bourgeoisie and take back the means of production and share it amongst themselves, leading to a classless society where there is no bourgeoisie versus proletariat. Everybody is is just equal. And Marx and Engels envisioned a future communal communist society where there is no private ownership of goods and services and producing these goods and services, and the means of production are collectively owned. And they call for workers to unite and throw off your chains. Don't be a slave to the bourgeoisie. And in this society, everything is distributed based on need, not on the ability to generate profit. So they tell workers, again, throw off your chains, don't be a slave to the bourgeoisie, take back the means of production, and communally own them, and to each he is given according to his need, and from each you give according to what you are able to this society. That is like a very basic primer of how we get to communism and what it would look like. But in Elantris, there is no class, there's no goods, there's no food, there's no means of production, there's definitely no capital, money, there's nothing. There's just half-alive outcasts living in a wasteland where nothing grows. Because, alright, I'm gonna get into the Elantris portion of this video, so careful for very light spoilers. Mostly I'm just talking about world building in this video. Let me give you the summary of the book. Elantris was once a place of magic, and the immortal Elantrians were gods in the eyes of people, with the divine ability to create and heal with a mere wave of a hand. Anyone in Aerolon had the potential to become an Elantrian through a magical transformation known as the Sheod, but 10 years ago a cataclysm known as the Rayod somehow destroyed the magic of Elantris. The inhabitants of the city became cursed, and the city was sealed off from the rest of society. Anyone with the affected by the Sheod, so people like literally wake up and they're like, oh shit, I have the Sheod, I'm an Elantrian now, is thrown into Elantris by the rest of the society to stay there forever. And they are immortal, but they're cursed with unquenchable hunger and unhealable pain. So if you get a boo-boo, you're having that boo-boo forever. Good fucking luck. The book focuses on three principal characters whose stories intertwine. Prince Raoden, the Prince of Aerolon, is transformed into an Elantrian at the beginning of the book. Princess Serene is the Princess of Teod, and every word in this ends in A-ode, and would have been Raoden's political bride, like they were gonna have a marriage of politics. But then on the morning that he's supposed to wake up and marry her and meet her for the first time, he wakes up with the Sheod. And then the other main squeeze character, who almost everybody likes, including me, is Gyorn Hrathen, who is a Derethi, like a Gyorn is a priest. So he's a Derethi priest, he's a high-ranking priest. He arrives in Aerolon with a mandate to convert the country to the Derethi religion within 3 months' time, or the armies of his religion will come to destroy the entire nation of Aerolon. So the Elantrians now are just anybody who wakes up in the area outside of like this certain area. Nobody wakes up with the Sheod and gets thrown into Elantris, and you find out why, right? Why it is only like certain people in this like tri-state area getting affected by the Sheod. But that's not really what I'm talking about today. Like, the book is cool, the plot is cool, the mysteries are cool, but that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the world building, particularly with the religion and the economics portion. That's what you're here for today. So when people are thrown into Elantris because they have come down with the half-alive zombie issue, this loss of power and status, such as with our main character Raoden, who was the prince, leads to a dramatic shift in power dynamics, because all of a sudden you're in Elantris where there is no class, there is nothing, there is no food, there is no goods and services, there's nothing. And this inevitably leads to you looking at, okay, well, like looking at Aerolon where he came from, let's look at like all the privilege that he had and what comes out of these class-based societies and who has the power and how they weaponize that against those who don't. And so it's kind of funny when like a person in a huge position of power, these like elite people, are brought down to the same deplorable state as the common people, or as you might refer to them, the proletariat. So Elantris in this way like immediately subtly emphasizes the principle of equality being a fundamental aspect of a just society, because Aerolon is really fucked up. So the Sheod, the Rayod, the half-alive zombie issue equalizes the citizens of Elantris in terms of both their physical condition, because everybody ends up a half-alive zombie, but also brings about this shared sense of desperation and vulnerability. And there are some gains, but nobody's doing well. And this shared experience eventually, not immediately, creates a sense of unity among both like former elite and commoners who are in Elantris. And this is really like a really striking part of Elantris, is this collaborative effort you see between former elite and common people in their efforts to improve their own circumstances and rebuild this city and get rid of the goop and also find a way to be self-sustaining in their ability to make food, because they are only able to get food when somebody accidentally comes in from Arelon and happens to have some food in their pockets, and then everybody fights over it. So they are really subject to like the whims of the, you know, not half-alive zombie class of people, Arelon, the upper class of Arelon rather, and also like it's just circumstance until they are able to improve even their food circumstances. But this only occurs after Raoden, one of the novel's 3 protagonists, who was a prince and then ended up in Elantrian. He is now a exiled prince who finds himself in Elantris. He gets there, he sees the state of things, he immediately makes a friend who is very cool, and eventually he emerges as a leader who promotes cooperation, shared responsibility, and inclusivity rather than perpetuating hierarchies. And he works and works and works to involve all residents of Elantris, regardless of who they were when they were in Arelon and who they've been while they've been in Elantris, in the rebuilding of Elantris to improve everybody's circumstances, including their own. And there's basically a line where he says almost, to each according to his need and from each according to his ability. And I was like, Raoden, is this Marx jumping out? Now our main dude, Raoden, I will say is a little too good to be true in his willingness to be like brought down to the lowly status of an Elantrian. But whatever, it still works because he became lower class and, you know, he does Marxism and then everybody benefits. So what occurs serves as a metaphor for the potential for equality and unity when all members of a society face common challenges together and choose to deal with them in a way that does not promote hierarchies. And in this way, the novel suggests a system that treats all members of society as equals, which can lead to more stability and more harmony while everybody benefits from it. And again, before Raoden shows up, there's like 3 main gangs with leaders who essentially Raoden has to convince to work in harmony. And he does this by basically saying we aren't each other's enemies, the problem is our circumstances, and the bourgeoisie being unwilling to share with us lowly Elantris half-zombies, but we can improve our circumstances. And then slowly they start to work together. So this collaborative effort is a powerful argument for communal society. By working together, they harness their collective skills and knowledge to achieve a common goal that benefits everybody as a whole and everybody individually. Everybody has a stake in the progress and well-being of the community, reinforcing that, again, a communal system leads to better outcomes for all. Another aspect of Elantris that I think aligns with communism is very particularly the notion of shared responsibility. People don't think shared responsibility when they think communism, but that's what I think of the most. As the city of Elantris begins to rebuild because Raoden's like, hey, I've got some ideas, let's implement. Raoden and the other leaders, who a couple of them were like former gang leaders, institute policies that emphasize distributing resources equally, ensuring that residents have access to basic needs. And this stands in great contrast to both Arelon, where he came from, and also capitalism in the real world, where wealth and resources are concentrated among the few, typically on the backs of those who actually do the labor, the proletariat. So it's this communal group of people ensuring the welfare of all citizens. The city outside of Elantris has a major class problem, where the poorest of citizens are like, there was one part where Raoden finds out that people are being asked not to beg, and like, it was either don't beg in certain areas of the city at all or don't beg until like a certain time of night, maybe. I don't know. I'll be honest, at this point in the book, I was listening on audio and I was in the car with my kids and they were fighting in the backseat, so I don't remember the exact line, but it basically was going to show that Raoden, the priest, was finding out that the bourgeoisie, the upper class, was asking the people who were not even having their basic needs met to not remind them that the bourgeoisie had failed the lowest of the low in society. Like, oh, don't do that here. I don't want to be reminded that I failed you, that you exist and I have all this wealth and you don't. I don't I don't want to see it. Which, doesn't that sound an awful lot like that thing we do where we don't even want people who are unhoused to sleep on benches, so we like put fucking spikes and shit on them? Sounds an awful lot like that, doesn't it? Where we are prioritizing not making the bourgeoisie uncomfortable. In contrast, by making the welfare about the community as a whole a top priority, Elantris itself is made better, and the book implies that society can flourish when we decide as a community that we are committed to the well-being of each and every member. And this reflects a core idea of communism, where the government is really just the working class who acts as stewards for each other of resources and ensures that nobody is left behind. And what's funny is that just like the bourgeoisie maintains power by having the working class fight amongst ourselves, Raoden knows that he needs to keep the betterment of Elantris a secret. Like, once they have finally like created the society that is better, he tries to make it so that the outside in Erelon, I keep wanting to call it something else, Erelon, he doesn't want Erelon to know that Elantris has rebuilt, because he knows that Erelon does not want the half-alive Elantrians to rise above their station. This fall of Elantris and the subsequent rebuilding process emphasize benefits of treating all members of a society equally, encouraging collaboration, ensuring shared responsibility. Like, I cannot stress how important that part is, that piece is. So I was really surprised to see that Brando Sando wrote a communal system where justice and harmony were central and money was not. What are you doing? Like, in Elantris in particular, it reminds us the potential for a world where everyone is valued and has a stake in each other's prosperity, and the common good is the common good, the communal good. I mentioned before that I learned incorrect shit about communism and Marx in school, in my Abeka curriculum, and to some extent, again, you worldly, as we would call you, people did too, but Marx was not as anti-religion as I was taught, and you might have been taught too. He actually said some things that are very similar to how religion is utilized in Elantris in certain parts. So like, there's a couple different religions in here. One of Marx's famous statements about religion is that it is the opiate of the masses. He argued that religion serves as a kind of emotional escape for the working class, for the hardships and the suffering that they experience, that we experience. Marx believed that religion, by offering like promise of salvation and comfort in an afterlife, could distract people from their immediate like conditions, like the conditions that they're dealing with right now and the injustices that they were experiencing under capitalism. So on the one hand, he's like, great, I'm glad you're finding something that makes you feel better, but also maybe we should address what's making you feel like shit. And this, using religion as a distraction from your material conditions, your economic status in life, is definitely true. And like, Hrathen sees this even in his position, but I think the people that experienced it most deeply were Serene and Raoden. Serene I really haven't talked about in this. She is great. I like her. She was everything that I wanted what's-her-face in Theft of Swords to be. I like her. If you like witty women characters, I don't know. I liked Serene. I don't really have a ton to say about her. It's really hard to do positive reviews. So like, in Elantris, Serene and Raoden found a lot of comfort in their situation by holding deeply to their religious connections, and that was really cool. That was really cool to see that even in these like dire circumstances, the thing that is bringing them comfort was their religious beliefs. Elantris has no power structure, so there's nobody to weaponize that religion against them, right? So Marx saw religion also, though, not just as a source of comfort, but also as a tool used by the bourgeoisie to control the working class or to pacify them, keeping them from rebelling against the conditions that the bourgeoisie put them in the fucking first place. And this is also present in Elantris, where in Elantris the book, not the city, where we have a compelling example of how religion can be weaponized against the lower class. In general, I think that Elantris the book is just a really good example of how religion can be skillfully woven into the fabric of a book to really emphasize every single other aspect of the book. So the characters, the themes, the politicking, all of it. Like, he really did a good job using it to emphasize all these different things he was doing, to bring out the most in the theme and the characters. That's just good writing. That's just good world building. He did a good job. All that to say, it's a great idea to build out your world by interweaving your politics and your our economy with your religion and how these affect your characters within your fantasy book. So it's like a little spider web, but you gotta do a lot of work to get there. I've read too many books that are doing it half-assed and it's terrible. In this book, religion plays a pivotal role in the lives of its inhabitants, and there's a couple different religions, and several of the POVs, all three of the POVs we get well, Serene and Raoden I think have the same religion, right? And then Hrathen does not. Hrathen was my favorite POV because he went on a journey, didn't he? In this world, as I said, the religion is super important both in the political and the personal. It's a source of comfort and meaning on the personal end, especially to those experiencing the Sheod, yeah, like Raoden, but it's also involved in the plays that people are making for power, like with Hrathen. And that is exactly what Mark said, just saying. So Sanderson introduces us to Shudareth and Eondor. Those are the two religions. Shudareth is this it's a religion that also has a religious force behind it. It is like a lot of dogma, emphasis on order, strict, oppressing people. The bourgeoisie, some bourgeoisie, are trying to use this against the working class. This faith is exploited by political leaders in power to control the population, just like Marx said. So this showcases like the dark side of religion, or not religion on its own existing, but how the dark side of how people utilize religion when they're using it in a play for manipulating others to get into a position of power over them. And then there's Eondor, which is a religion, and it's like an ancient form of magic that has a lot to do with the city of Elantris itself, actually. So it's got this religious component to it, and Raoden practices this, and there's like a lot of like symbols involved because it's a magical religion, and he like writes symbols, and then he can, do some magical shit, which is just cool. Like it was just a cool religion. Do I understand all the ins and outs of it? No, I do not. It was very complicated and it went over my head. But did I like it? Yes, I did. I did like it. But I didn't have to fully understand it to really get the most out of it, in my opinion, because what I got out of it was seeing how Sanderson showcased how people hold on to religion as a source of comfort and something to inspire them even when they are in such a desolate place like Elantris is. Because Raoden's entire desire to see the renewal of Elantris is rooted in his faith. Serene, who is the newcomer to Aerolon because she went there to marry Raoden and then he woke up dead. Nobody knows that he turned into an Elantrian. She shows up and she's not familiar with the religious traditions of Aerolon itself, and she finds out, she meets Hrathen, the priest, the Shudareth priest, and she's trying to understand it, and she's like, this is iffy, and she becomes really enmeshed. Well, she goes on a path of interweaving herself into the politics, which I love an ambitious bitch, and she was one. She's really skeptical about Shudareth, the religion, and she really questions the established hierarchies of Elantris, which I loved. I love how her and Hrathen were kind of like on opposite sides for a while. Serene is great because she makes Hrathen doubt. She makes him, the priest, doubt his faith, and I thought that was really smartly written. This book honestly just does a really good job of exploring the dichotomy of faith and doubt. So religion serves as a beacon of hope and salvation for Raoden, but it also questions the nature on like Hrathen's part of divine power, the human tendency to exploit that power and exploit each other, in particular using religions. So it's a book that has that discussion about the fine line between true actual faith and using religious ideas to manipulate others. As I said, Hrathen is my favorite character arc in this because of his conflicted feelings about religion, which, my guy, same. There was a line in it that I wrote down while I was listening to it that said, he followed Dorethi, Shudareth, because it made sense. And I was like, I know at face value that's not a profound statement, but when you're in like a religious cult or you're cult adjacent, like I think I was, that really hits home. He followed Dorethi because it made sense, but who had made it make sense to him? Because he was a child when he initially got involved in this. So that really speaks. I just feel like that line was like so subtly well done. He followed it because it made sense, and he had never thought maybe it doesn't make sense. He had never even had the question. It was so, I just felt that. I'm not being very articulate right now, but if you grew up cult adjacent or in a cult, if you know, you know. Because the people people in power who are making you believe this stuff, they say things in a way where they make it make sense to you, and they make it so that you are unable to question anything because they have given you these like word salad sentences where if you have any questions, you have been taught, well, I don't need to ask that question because everything makes sense already because God. Like it's very insane. And I just thought that that was such a good line. It did make sense when I was in it, and it was hard to reconcile any new information that made me feel conflicted. And Hrathen experiences this too. Brandon Sanderson very surprisingly, masterfully explored the theme of religious deconstruction, in my opinion, through the character of Hrathen. So Hrathen's journey from like this zealot and this man who was basically sort of like a missionary who was gonna show up and convert all the people or else, literally, to this self-reflective individual who realizes maybe this doesn't make sense and I have done a lot of really shitty things in the name of it making sense when it does not. And doubt itself can be transformative. Isn't that fucking cool? I think that that was a really, really smart way to write a fucking fantasy book about religious deconstruction. And this metaphor of like this decaying city of Elantris, this like goop covered city a la Tears of the Kingdom, and Hrathen's inner conflict, like I saw that. I saw what Brandon was doing and I liked it. He really did a good job in emphasizing the complexity of religious deconstruction, in my opinion, as somebody who has deconstructed and left the faith. Not Shudareth, but Fundyland. Hrathen is originally introduced as like this fervent and loyal priest of Derethi, and he really believes in the righteousness of his faith, which speaks to me because that is what we were told. And it teaches that those who do not convert are going to be condemned. What? Condemned. Damned also. So it's very Christianity. So Hrathen shows up in Aerolon to convert people, and he will lie, cheat, and steal his way there. But he set himself up to deconstruct unwittingly, which was the best part. Like, he played himself into deconstructing. The city of Elantris, again, is like it's a metaphor for deconstruction of Hrathen's religious ideas and convictions. So Elantris was this place of power and beauty, and then it's been reduced to a shithole where nothing grows, a ruin of what it once was. Hrathen initially perceives Elantris as this symbol of divine punishment. Like, these people are being punished, they're being damned by, Derethi standards. And then this gets challenged after he meets Serene and starts understanding what Elantris really is. His interactions with Serene, who opposes his mission regarding Elantris, is like really what sets him on a course that he definitely did not intend to be on. Her intellectually challenging him, but also being kind of compassionate with him, causes him to question this black and white nature of his faith, where suddenly he followed Derethi because it makes sense, but then it suddenly did not. And her insistence on this importance of understanding and tolerance of others over this like dogma that he sticks to, this like, you must convert, it starts to slowly wear away at him, and he's grappling with this inner conflict while he's still doing these like really shitty things. But this seed of compassion that Serene has planted within him causes him to have this like really well written, I think, internal conflict between his loyalty to his faith that he has followed since he was a kid, and these doubts that he has, and this, again, that seed of compassion that he started to feel for others that Serene further inspires the more that they interact. And this just, I think, is a good way to talk about. This is actually a really shockingly good book about religious deconstruction and the emotional turmoil that it can cause for believers of faiths that we are taught not to question. And ultimately, his deconstruction is transformational, and he finally learns to challenge that belief that religious belief can only be maintained without question or empathy for others. And he's like, do I have faith, or is this fanaticism? Am I blindly following something? Is this really religious conviction, or am I just following something because I'm told that I need to make others do something? I need to control other people. I think that Sanderson, surprisingly, again, nobody's as shocked as I didn't know what to expect. It definitely was not communism and religious deconstruction. He pretty skillfully employed religion as a theme here, and it enriched the narrative. It developed characters really well. Again, Hrathen was my favorite character arc, and it explored the complexities of faith in a fictional world, and again showcased how interwoven all of that is with the religion, with the plot and the politics and the people. Like, all of it was really masterfully interconnected, in my opinion. And this book challenges readers to contemplate all roles in society, really, like the way that capitalism plays a role, but also how religion plays a role in society, and its potential for both healing and harm, and the profound impact that it has on the lives of its inhabitants. And I think that's also what Marx was doing. I'm just saying, Elantris is a testament to the power of a good book to provoke thoughtful reflecting on the intricate relationship between humans and experiencing or carrying out religion, like religion and the human experience. I think that if I had to guess, Sanderson wrote this at a time in his life where he had dabbled a little bit in the theories of Marx. I could see that being the case. Like, it feels very much that way from having read it. And all in all, I was surprised at how much this lent myself to texting my friends. Is this communism? Is Brando trying to talk about communism on purpose or on accident? Did he accidentally do a communism? And either way, like, why am I having such a damn good time? This had a few issues. I think there was a little bit of fat phobia in here, and I was like, Brandon, no. But I really just had fun with it, especially because I listened to it on graphic audio, which has like all the different voices and the sound effects. I will say that the production quality could have been a little better because the narrator's voice was not louder than the background music. So when we were being narrated to a battle scene, it was really hard to hear the narrator. So whoever is in charge over at graphic audio, could you maybe help a girl out who's pretty sound sensitive? Outside of that issue, the production quality was great, and I was very immersed. I really felt like I was there, and like, I'll never be able to unhear Serene and Raoden and Hrathen's voices exactly as I heard them. So anytime that I'm thinking about them, I hear them in those voices. Like, it was good. I liked it. I recommend reading it in graphic audio format. If you have Hoopla, it is on Hoopla, all 3 parts. My personal work in progress, which will never see the light of day, I have a barter system, and I'm writing anti-capitalist shit that my father would absolutely hate. I very rarely see this in books. So if you have any more recs about books that are doing barter systems instead of capital, like money, or are doing, you know, communism either on purpose or on accident, leave them below. Let me know, because I want to read them. But other than that, let me know a book that you were impressed by the world building of and why. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye.
Hello. I don't know if this new mic is working or not. I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't have high hopes for it. And I think that we should all tell Mr. Reeds to give me the other one back, because this one is not, it's not it. It doesn't even stretch, so I don't even know if you can hear me. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm done. Okay, before I go, I have to say thank you for being a friend. I'll just talk really loud so hopefully you can hear me properly. Hopefully, until Mr. Reeds gives me the other microphone back and I can give the snowball to him to use. I need it for work. Sorry, I'm done. I promise I'm done. I have to say thank you for being a friend to Alexander, Allie Magpie, Ambihextress, Andy, Cami, Chris, Claire, Des Roberts, DJ Rocktopus, Ellie, Emperor's New Blues, Aaron, Eric, Farrer, Harley, Jack, and Jill. Wow, that was a mouthful. HM, who is new, welcome. And congrats again on your new job. Ian, John E. Oh, I did these out of order, didn't I? I'm sorry. Kaleno K, Casey McKenzie. This is the most chaotic thank you to my therapy bills patrons I have done yet, and that's saying something. Caitlin M, Quinn, Lady Kittybug, Lex, Alice, Peggy Lou, Rain, Reese, Samar, Scarlett, Shiny, and SMK. Thank you all so much for being a friend. And I also have to say thank you for being a friend to my Potato Starch Marxist patrons who I shouted out in this video. We are starch Marxists. Rise up. Shirk off your potato chains. Okay. And those are AM Angel, Amanda, Angelica, Anita, Artie the Ninth, Ashley H, Ava, BB, Beck, Blythe, Bookish Brainrot, Bree, Brian, Caitlin, Cardinal Ginger, Carlin, Cassandra, Catherine, Kathy, Chris, CJ, Cole, Colleen, Corwin, Corey, Darren, Deborah, Dex, Diet Goth, Dorian, Dorothea, Ebby, Ember, Emily A, Emily L, Emma, Aaron, Ezra, Hannah C, Hannah T, Harpy Kuro, Haley, Ilianaka, India Inks, JM Tennant, Jay is on Olympus, JT, Jen Michelle, Jenny G, Jess B, Jessa Sue, Jillian, Jojo Bookish, Just Pugsley, Kaylee, Kat, Katie, Katya, Kayala, Kendra, Kylie, Laughing Cat Dog, Laura, Library of Scars, Lisa B, LP, Lou Siri, Luna Moth, Lustful Octopus, Martin, Marcella, Marquita, Malara, MK Books, Molly, James, Nat, Natalie M, Never, Nicole R, Nicole G, Nyan Binary, Paige P, Penny Chilling, Fixed. Oh man, I fucked up. I was gonna fuck up somewhere. I could feel it. There it goes. Foxglove, Pixel Stars, Pure Raytheon, Rachel B, Rat Sarah, Reba, Rebecca, Ren, Robin, Rosie, Rowan, Other Rowan, Sakuria, Sadie, Samantha M, Sarah C, Sarah H, Sarah the Bear, Shamed, Shanae, Shannon, Shayna, Sheena K, Sean, Sophie, Stephanie, Talia, Three Old Dogs, Tina, Toast, Trashcan Teddy, Tito Phoenix, Valentine, and Writer A. Thank you all so much for being a friend.